What actually happens during a traffic stop? Imagine you're driving home from work. Maybe you've got music playing. Maybe you're thinking about dinner. Then suddenly, you see red and blue lights appear in your rearview mirror. Your heart rate instantly increases. Even if you've done nothing wrong, most people feel nervous when they're pulled over by law enforcement. But have you ever wondered what is actually happening during a traffic stop? What is the officer looking for? Why do they ask certain questions? Why do they sometimes take a long time before returning to your vehicle? Today, we're going to break down exactly what happens during a traffic stop from the moment an officer decides to pull a vehicle over until the stop is completed. Let's begin. The traffic stop actually starts before the emergency lights are ever activated. An officer may notice a vehicle speeding, running a stop sign, weaving between lanes, driving with expired registration, or committing any number of traffic violations. In some situations, the stop isn't initiated because of a traffic violation at all. Officers may be investigating suspicious activity, responding to a call for service, or attempting to identify a vehicle connected to another incident. Once the officer observes a legal reason to stop the vehicle, they usually begin observing additional details. They're looking at the vehicle's behavior. Are they braking suddenly? Are they trying to turn onto side streets? Are they appearing to avoid the officer? They're also looking at the occupants. How many people are inside? Is anyone moving around excessively? Are they reaching under seats or into compartments? These observations may seem minor, but they help the officer assess the situation before the stop even begins. Next comes the activation of the emergency lights. When drivers see emergency lights behind them, the safest thing to do is slow down, activate a turn signal if possible, and pull over in a safe location. Many drivers don't realize that officers are also evaluating where a vehicle chooses to stop. A driver who promptly pulls over in a safe, well-lit area generally causes less concern than someone who continues driving for several miles without an obvious reason. Once the vehicle is stopped, another important phase begins. The officer typically notifies dispatch of the stop location and vehicle information. This creates a record of the stop and lets dispatch know where the officer is located. In many departments, the officer will provide the license plate number and may receive information about the vehicle's registration status. Now comes something many drivers don't think about. Before approaching the vehicle, officers often spend a few moments simply observing. They may look through the windows. They may check the number of occupants. They may watch the driver's hands. Why? Because hands are one of the biggest safety concerns during any police encounter. An officer cannot know who is inside the vehicle or what their intentions may be. Most traffic stops are routine and peaceful, but officers must prepare for the possibility that a stop could become dangerous without warning. Once the officer approaches, you'll usually hear a greeting followed by a brief explanation. The officer may say something like, "Good evening. The reason I stopped you is that I observed you traveling 15 miles per hour over the speed limit." This is typically the point where the officer requests a driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. Many people become nervous at this stage and start apologizing or explaining. While every situation is different, remaining calm and following instructions generally helps the encounter proceed smoothly. You may also notice the officer asking questions. Questions like, "Where are you coming from? Where are you headed? Have you had anything to drink tonight?" These questions serve several purposes. Sometimes they help clarify circumstances surrounding the stop. Sometimes they help identify signs of impairment. And sometimes they simply help the officer gather information. During the conversation, the officer is making observations. Do they smell alcohol? Do they observe slurred speech? Are the driver's movements coordinated? Do the answers make sense? Again, these are observations, not conclusions. The officer is gathering information just like a detective gathers clues during an investigation. After collecting the required documents, the officer typically returns to their patrol vehicle. This is the stage that often feels longest to drivers. Many people wonder, what is taking so long? Several things may be occurring. The officer may be checking the validity of the driver's license. They may be checking for active warrants. They may be reviewing vehicle registration information. they may be completing paperwork for a warning or citation. Depending on technology, staffing, and communication systems, this process may take only a few minutes or considerably longer. While in the patrol vehicle, the officer is also making decisions. Should this driver receive a warning? Should a citation be issued? Is there evidence of another violation? Does the situation require further investigation? If signs of impairment are present, this may be the point where the stop expands into a DUI investigation. The officer may request the driver exit the vehicle and perform additional evaluations. Contrary to what many people believe, not every traffic stop automatically leads to a ticket. Many stops end with warnings. Others result in citations. Some lead to arrests when evidence of a more serious offense is discovered. Eventually, the officer returns to the vehicle. They may explain the warning or citation. They may answer questions. They may provide instructions regarding court dates or payment options if applicable. At this point, the stop is generally nearing completion. The officer will usually indicate that the driver is free to leave. Once the patrol vehicle has safely cleared the area or the officer gives clear instructions, the driver can merge back into traffic. So, what can drivers do to make a traffic stop safer and less stressful? First, pull over safely. Second, keep your hands visible whenever possible. Third, avoid sudden movements. Fourth, provide requested documents when asked. And finally, remain calm and respectful. The overwhelming majority of traffic stops end without incident. They're routine interactions that occur millions of times every year. For officers, traffic stops are one of the most common parts of the job. For drivers, they can feel intimidating because they happen infrequently. Understanding the process helps remove some of that uncertainty. The next time you see emergency lights in your rearview mirror, you'll know exactly what's happening. The officer is observing, gathering information, ensuring safety, and investigating the reason for the stop. What may feel like a simple traffic ticket from the driver's perspective is actually a structured process involving observation, communication, investigation, and decision-making. And now you know what really happens during a traffic stop. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more explanations about how police work, criminal investigations, and real-world law enforcement encounters actually happen, be sure to subscribe and join us for the next video.